Busch Gardens Williamsburg has been around since 1975, and it's seen 15 coasters come and go. It would be cool to rank them all up, and maybe I'll do that after my next trip. But today, let's focus on the coasters still at the park and throw out all our bias. There are 9 coasters currently at the park, and let's dig into the stats. Which one is the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced, and which one offers the most prime ride time? These are the coasters of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, by the numbers. If you're new to the series, prime ride time starts when the front car starts to pick up speed off the lift hill, and it ends when it hits the final brakes. Mid-course brake runs are left in, and these will extend the ride time, but it will hurt the pacing. For launch coasters, the clock starts when the launch starts. With the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I take the listed length and subtract the lift hill, station, and brakes. Second lifts also get taken out, and if there's track that is traversed more than once, I have to add that in. Busch Gardens has a couple coasters that do that. In fact, Busch Gardens was not an easy park at all for this type of video, and I'll explain why. Before we get started, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. In 9th place with 16 seconds is Grover's Alpine Express, a zero-force family coaster. Well, no surprise here. Busch Gardens only has one coaster that's truly geared towards kids and families, and this is it. Even then, it's not exactly a tiny kids coaster. It stands 24 feet tall, but that's still 50 feet behind the next shortest coaster. It tops out at 26 miles per hour, nearly half the speed of the next slowest on the list. It also covers only 407 feet of prime ride track, well over 800 feet less than the next shortest. Now, as you can expect, it's also last in pacing, but not by as much as you think. It covers 25.4 feet per second, and if it could have just done 4 more feet per second, it could have snagged 8th place. But as it stands, it's last in all categories. That's nothing to be ashamed of. This coaster serves a very important role in the park. In 8th place with 39 seconds is Griffin, a B&M dive coaster. The whole ride experience on Griffin is a long one. It's a whole minute and 13 seconds from the time you pull out of the station, hike up the 205-foot lift hill, ranking 2nd, turn off the lift, and then hang there waiting to drop. My clock starts once the brake lets you go. As the train dives under the bridge, it hits a top speed of 71 miles per hour, good for 3rd. After an Immelman, it twists into the mid-course brake run, and that does slow the train down a lot. This makes the next drop more dramatic, but it really kills the pacing. After that 130-foot drop, you have another Immelman, a splashdown, and a long twist into the brakes. It's not a long ride at all, only 6th place. But to my surprise, it tops the list in pacing with over 60 feet per second. When it's moving, but given that slowdown on the mid-course brake run, I'm surprised it still had enough to rank number 1. I guess it's tall, fast, and short enough in length to still make that happen. In 7th place with 42 seconds is Invader, a GCI wooden coaster. So Busch Gardens only has one official family coaster, but Invader is a very small-scale wooden coaster. It stands 74 feet tall, which has to kill the family coaster moniker, though that's only good for 8th place. It tops out at 48 miles per hour, also second to last, and its 1,493 feet of prime ride track is pretty weak for an adult coaster. Invader's pacing is the one stat that's not sitting next to Grover, ranking 7th at 35.5 feet per second. This seems to sit right in the middle of a family and a thrill ride, which I'm sure a lot of people appreciate. There are enough extreme thrill rides here. In 6th place with 43 seconds is Tempesto, a premier ride Skyrocket 2. Here's one of 2 coasters with a multi-pass launch, so I had to take the 863 feet of track, all of which is used for prime ride time, and add the track used for the forward and backwards parts. It goes through one more launch, reaching the top speed of 62 miles per hour, ranking 5th. Rises up to the max height of 150 feet, also 5th, and it's able to complete the full course. Even with the extra track added in, Tempesto only covers about 1,255 feet, ranking 8th. That's not a lot, considering it takes 43 seconds to do it all. That's why it's also 8th in pacing, just over 29 feet per second. There are just too many times where this slows down to a crawl, whether it be on that multi-pass launch, stalling forward and then backward, or when it reaches that max height and then slowly tips you through the roll. In this case, the bad pacing kinda works. It makes the ride a lot more fun. In 5th place with 55 seconds is Lock This Monster, an aero looper. It seems like this whole ride is designed to line itself up for the interlocking loops. If you've ever done this in Roller Coaster Tycoon, you know it can be a little awkward. This has 2 lift hills to achieve the feat, and it seems like other than the first drop and the drops into the loops, it's going through a slow turn, though it does have a pretty good helix inside a cave. All this wandering placed it in 5th place in pacing, less than 43 feet per second. I did remove 18 seconds in the middle of the ride for the second lift. Its main drop is 114 feet, ranking 6. Also 6 in speed at 60 miles an hour. It may seem like a long ride, but the layout is pretty simple, and this only sports 11 more feet of prime ride track than Griffin, ranking 5th. In 4th place with 60 seconds is Alpengeist, a B&M invert. This has to be one of the most overlooked inverts in the country, and that's weird because it stands 195 feet tall. Its drop is only 170 feet, so it ranks 4th, and it's also 4th in speed, topping out at 67 miles an hour. This invert has a pretty unique layout. starting with that long wraparound drop, then the Immelman, loop, and Cobra roll, and it ends with a 0G roll and a corkscrew. You just don't see 0G rolls after the mid-course breaks. This is the only one I can think of. All that prime ride track is close to 3,200 feet, third in the park. The first and second half is broken up by a mid-course brake run, and that thing hits hard. I'm talking about Goliath at Magic Mountain hard. This is a pacing killer, and it drops us down to 4th place from the POV that I saw. Still not a bad rank, but considering how fast it flies through the first half, it could be better. This does make the second half slower and gives more hang time, so that's a plus. But it would be nice not to crawl into the final breaks. In 3rd place with 66 seconds is Pantheon, an Intamin launch coaster. If you saw my Intamin Blitz Prime Ride Time video, then you'll notice that Pantheon made 2 of these lists in a row. Just like Tempesto, this is a multi-pass launch, so you have the train stall out going forward, then going backward. This isn't great for the pacing, neither is that 0G winder, or the top hat it crawls over, or the outer bank it also takes really slow. It does end low to the ground, which helps, and so does the top speed. This is tied for 1st place, topping out at 73 miles per hour, but all those slow elements push us down to 3rd in pacing, a little under 2 feet per second better than Alpengeist, but still 5 feet per second away from Griffin in the top spot. It is all those elements that are high off the ground, and the top height is listed at 178 feet, good for 3rd. It's also 3rd in length, covering almost 500 feet more than Alpengeist, helped out by that multi-pass launch, covering the same track over and over again. The only POVs from this ride are from the winter and early spring, so as we move into the warm summer months, we'll see if this starts running faster. In 2nd place with 68 seconds is Verbolten, a zero launch coaster. I was saying how challenging this park was, and Verbolten is the poster child for that. There's no lift hill to worry about, but it has a long indoor section where there's all kinds of activities. You wind out of the station, hit the first launch, and disappear into the building. At one point, you come to almost a dead stop before you move on. I left that in the prime ride time, but that was kind of a long mid-course brake run. Then you wind around some more, and come to a complete stop. This is where I stopped the clock. From the POV I watched, you're on those brakes for 27 seconds. Surrounded by flashing lights and darkness, the anticipation builds up. Then you have a 1-second drop track. After that, you have to wait 10 more seconds, but then you're moving again. That's an astounding 37 seconds of downtime right in the middle of the ride, broken up by 1 amazing second when you're free falling. You dip out of the brake run, into the next launch, winding your way to the ride's highest point, then drop down from that 88-foot perch, only 7th in the park. You have a couple low to the ground turns before the ride ends. It's also 7th in speed, maxing out at 53 miles per hour. But this ride isn't about height and speed, or stats at all for that matter. It does boast the 4th most prime ride track, just over 2,500 feet, and the pacing, for what it's worth, comes in 6th, covering 37.4 feet per second. The pacing is almost like Twisted Colossus, where you can almost take a nap right in the middle, but even when the train is moving, it's still towards the bottom. In 1st place with 72 seconds is Apollo's Chariot, a B&M hyper. Like any good hyper, it's gotta be a long ride, and Apollo delivers. It only stands 170 feet tall, and that's actually 4th place, but it drops into a ravine at 210 feet. That's number 1 in the park. At the bottom of that drop, it reaches a top speed of 73 miles per hour, tied with Pantheon at number 1. It blows the rest of the field away in length, going out and back with a big swooping helix to turn back around, covering more than 4,000 feet of prime ride track, almost 400 feet better than Pantheon. The one category Apollo can't claim at least a share of 1st place in is pacing. It edges out Pantheon by less than a foot, but it's still more than 4 feet per second behind Griffin, so it's 2nd place. Pantheon and Apollo have the same speed and pacing number, and we saw the pacing issues that Pantheon had. Apollo has the same issues. It does have a mid-course, but that doesn't hit nearly as hard as Griffin or Alpengeist. I think Apollo's main issue is all the airtime hills. The train slows down at the top of each one, and that's natural, but I think it does it a little too much. When I last rode Apollo, the airtime was really weak because it was taking the hills too slow. Again, that was a cold day, and hopefully it runs better in the summer. That being said, Apollo had the 2nd worst pacing of all the world's B&M hypers, so take that as you will. This was B&M's first hyper, and maybe they learned to make some adjustments. So there you have it, the coasters of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, by the numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you, or confirmed something you already knew. I'm surprised at the pacing issues all these rides seem to have, and how Griffin was still number 1 by quite a bit despite its harsh mid-course. I also thought Loch Ness Monster was a longer ride. Even though it has an interesting layout, it's a pretty simple ride. A couple drops, a couple loops, and a helix. It's just in an order you don't see every day. If you have any other thoughts on these stats, or these coasters in general, sound off in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and give me a sub for more content just like this. I have a playlist for more videos in the same format. Also be sure to check out my links below for my Discord server, and my 2nd channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you happen to love baseball also. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.